Hello, my name is Justin Ruger. I'm the host of Accessible Beekeeping and More, and I'm here with co-host Jonathan. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
Doing pretty good.
And we have our special guest for the week, Ricky from Horizontal Bees. How are you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing real good, Justin.
I didn't know anything about horizontal hives until the Hive Life conference with Cayman, and you have some amazing quality. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm just an old hillbilly in the mountains of North Carolina, and I grew up here, and um, I I make airplane engines for a living, and uh, started beekeeping, and with a friend, he had some hives, and you know, I watched a lot of Randy the Dirt Rooster, and I was like, well, wow, them bees like to go horizontal inside those rafters, and I said, well, let me give that a shot, and so my first beehive that I built was a horizontal hive. My uncle's a cabinet builder, so he's very precise about his measurements, and I do we do make airplane engines to center those, so our measurements are pretty tight tolerances, and we just try to figure out what the bees like, and build a hive that we think that they might live in.
So you're a family-owned business, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I have my dad and my uncle, and they build the hives, and my mother does some painting, and my wife does some painting, and I do the assembly. We're just a little bitty business, nothing big, just trying to live the American dream and start a little company.
So you said that you started beekeeping. How long ago was that?
We started beekeeping about 4 years ago. My grandfathers had bees as I grew up, and they had top bar hives, so maybe that's why I fell into the horizontals. I don't know, but they had them for many years, and then my friend Rick, he lived down the street, and he said, "Here, let's try some beekeeping." And I said, "Okay, let me come down because I'm highly allergic to bees." And I said, "Let's try it." And I went down there, and man, I was hooked day one. And maybe it's my youth, where I remember back at my grandfather's, and I was like, "Oh, I want to do this." So it's been about 4 years.
Wow, so you're not brand new, but you're new to the scene,
That is correct. Yep.
and you're already making major strides helping out and designing hives that are horizontal.
Right. But Justin, a lot of it comes to each beekeeper. They want something different. Just like you, when I talk to you, you say, "Hey, I need something for me. Can you build it this way?" And it continues to push the design even farther. So each beekeeper I talk to, they almost contribute to each hive.
Do we get a metal plaque?
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
So you've been beekeeping for 4 years and making your horizontal hives for a couple?
Yeah, for about 2 years now. Yep. Yep. Well, we did. I built my first hive. When I first started, it was my first hive, but then I went to the Langstroth hives, and then I'm like, no, I think I'll stay with the horizontal hives. A little easier on my back.
And then everything you manufacture and design is done here in the United States?
Absolutely. We've even gone to buy local sawmill lumber, and I have a gentleman right now that's got a whole load of sawmill lumber coming, and I know a lot of lumber's cut here, but it's I try to stay local, local, local. I mean, just if I can get it from somebody else that makes it here, I'm going to do that. I think we get too much stuff bought from overseas, and here lately it's just real cheap made stuff, and um, I think we need to get back to America makes some great products.
So I talked to you this weekend. You said that you were driving to Virginia to deliver some hives. What's the furthest that you've driven from North Carolina?
We drove down to Texas 2 weeks ago to drop off three horizontal hives, but we had family down that way, so it was kind of a family slash business trip all in one. And I tell you, something I really like is getting to meet those beekeepers. They're amazing. I don't know. It's just like the Hive Life conference. It's like you are connected to somebody, and you get to meet that person. I mean, even like meeting you at the Hive Life conference, it's like, oh wow, here's this really cool guy that's in a wheelchair, and he's keeping bees, and it's like, well, I never should complain about having to get out in the rain or wind to my bees. So. Hmm.
So I guess now we'll get more into your design. Why would you think your product is beneficial for accessible beekeeping over other hive types?
Well, I think my hive type is if you had a bad back. A lot of the ladies, I get a lot of ladies that buy our hives just because they can't pick those heavy, deep frames up, supers up, and um, the I feel like a little bit the horizontal hive is a little bit like the single brood management.
Yeah.
You have a small chamber of bees, and something else I've found to be pretty interesting is that the I don't see as much humidity building up in the hive because the bees are right up against the lid and they're working their way across, so they're not ever really getting any moisture raining down on them inside that hive. When that seems to help the bees quite a bit.
So tell me how a horizontal hive works, because I have never used one before. So, I mean, obviously, I know with a Langstroth hive, you have one or two brood boxes down at the bottom. Bees will always build up.
Yeah, yeah,
But
they do.
you said when you did research with Randy the Dirt Rooster that everything was coming from the side, or they were
Yeah,
moving horizontally.
yeah, they're moving horizontal. I mean, top bars have been around for a long time. The problem with a top bar a lot of times is you got crush and strain, and I like a lot of comb honey myself. So I like top bars, but if you want to be able to spin out your honey, the Langstroth horizontal helps you with that situation. And the management's a little different if you've watched some of Cayman's videos or some of my videos. Um, the management can be a little bit different. You're using divider boards to move your bees around. The queen excluder, of course, is it's horizontal, so again, it's hard for your bees. Don't sometimes they don't like those queen excluders, and if you let them have our hives is like 3D, almost a partial, and the honey is the way my hive is designed is on the ends. Um, so, I think last year my old hive, I ended up getting 8 frames of honey out of it. So that's a little bit of a difference versus the vertical. Is I wouldn't say a horizontal hive is going to produce a ton of honey. I think maybe your verticals might do that, but the ease on the back is means a lot.
Okay. So I had another question. You told us how it could be beneficial, but is there any reason that your product would be difficult for somebody with a disability?
Well, I think every hive has can have
Limitations.
limits to it, but that's the fun about designer and with my hives, it's trying to figure out how does that hive work best for Justin. What can we do? And sometimes I might not come up with the idea. I know when you talked about tilting that hive, and you didn't come with the idea. It comes from somebody else, and it's like,
Hmm.
wow, why didn't we think of that? That's so easy. So people with disabilities, you know, trying to figure out what works best for them. Maybe it ain't a horizontal hive, but maybe that's the perfect hive for them. And let's talk and see if we can figure something out. And if it don't work, it don't work. If it does, then hey, that's great, and then we can pass that along to somebody else.
Okay. Do you have anything, Jonathan?
What have you observed through the winter? How does that cluster move through the hive usually?
Well, Jonathan, I think I tend to live with a lot of honey on my hive. They uh, they really don't move. I thought they would just run through the honey all the way across to the end.
Mm.
They really like staying close to that entrance. And so far, most of the brood chambers, I guess, it gets down to about 3 pounds of bees inside there, but they seem to blow up really good during the spring, and it fills out very quickly. So, I mean, I had a hive to die over winter.
Mm.
My neighbor down below me, their hive died over winter. So I won't say if you buy a horizontal hive that your bees are not going to die. I think a lot of that has to do with the management and your bees and some other factors. But you know, I like how they overwinter.
Yeah, I think any hive is susceptible to possibly having them dead up. I had
Yeah,
one last year that I struggled all summer with, and
yeah,
they made it until about a month ago, and then they died out. I can't figure out what happened, but
yeah,
they're a problem the whole season.
yeah. I mean, I had a hive that we was kind of warm in the mountains for us, and it was running about 60 to 70 degrees in December, which is very unusual. And I
Mm.
had a queen to they superseded that queen and requeened, and then it was going gangbusters with brood, and then it turned off, cold just like that, and it
Mm.
was dead. I mean, they would not come off that brood, and the honey was right there above 2 inches, and they wouldn't get off that brood to go get it. I
Mm.
mean, it's amazing.
What's your most requested configuration of your different hives that you have?
I would say the standard horizontal hive,
Mm.
and again, that's the one that Cayman uses, with the slanted top. That's probably the most requested hive.
Mm.
I've come out with some different designs here in the last, I guess, month or two, and so that's starting to change just a little bit. But the standard horizontal hive for the price and what you're getting is a very good hive.
Mm.
So, what is your ultimate goal with your business?
Justin, I was thinking about that the other day, and I had talked to Terry Chapman, Guardian Bee Apparel guy, and he was telling me about his goals and stuff, and he got me thinking on the way back from Cayman's conference, and it's like, well, what is my goals? What do I want? And my wife is, well, you better figure it out. um, but I really haven't set any goals. Um, I don't have to sell the beehives. That's it's not a it's my livelihood doesn't depend on it. But for me, I guess I would say I would like people just to give it a try, even if they build their own. Just give it a try and see if you like it. It's a lot of fun, and if your friends come over and you want to show them in a beehive, it's easy just to lift the lid up, and everything's right there all the way across. If you want to show them, hey, my queen's down here on the third box, and you're breaking everything apart to get down into it, you're causing damage, and it might hurt your bees just a little bit.
Less chance of squashing your queen.
Absolutely.
Do you have any thanks or praise that you want to give to anyone who has supported you?
you know, I'd like to thank my supporters on my channel. Without them, I wouldn't be, probably on YouTube. Um, they they push me and they ask a lot of hard questions, and that helps me out a lot. But my wife means a lot to me, and without her putting up with me, and there was a couple times we about just completely quit the business, like it's just too much trouble. But she's always stood behind me and helped me out, and in life, without a good wife, it really makes it hard. And I mean, just talk a little bit about girlfriends and family and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
a wife means a lot that'll stand behind you and help you out.
Okay. So a little bit back to the design of your business, your hives. I was thinking, you said everything is down to really specific measurements because of your background and your, I guess you said father-in-law's background.
Yeah, that's right.
What is adaptable? Because I know bee space needs to be correct so that they don't build comb. I know so they don't propolize everything. What is, if I were to call you or Jonathan were to call you and say, "Hey, I need a hive, but I need this to change." What on your hives are adapt like changeable? Like what can be what has give and take?
What has give and take? That's a very good question. I really stick with the Langster Hive, and that 19 and 5/8, I think is what that frame length is.
Hmm.
That's always set in place. I mean, you can't do that unless you move to a Lance Hive or a top bar hive. Um, so the width pretty much has to stay true to where it's at. But we can play with the length. We can play with the height. We can do a lot of play. And I had a lady call me, let's see, it's about a week and a half ago, and she wanted me to take a Lance Hive base because it's good for brood management. And she wanted me to put a Langstroth, like my super hive, where it's got a center section, and she wanted me to
Hmm.
put a Langsford, what do they call it, hogs halves in the center of that, so that she could get some cassettes to sell. And she wanted to be able to put jars in there so her bees could get in the jars and do some honey. So the difference in that's about 3 inches from a long lang or a Langstroth hive versus a Lance hive. So we did play with the width, but normally you don't mess with that measurement very much because you're going to mess a lot of bee space up.
And then you can do the height of the hive.
Oh yeah, we can change the height pretty easy, and you know we can put we can have a 32 frame hive, and then you're putting a super, maybe two shallows or two mediums or a deep, and you know my buddy, he wanted to where he could put three shallows in the top of his, so we really made that center position very very big. And it's to be here second year. The first year it just takes enough time to fill that hive out, but his second year he should get quite a bit of honey off that hive.
That's amazing. I know. I look forward to the one that we're working together on. Being able to tilt it to
Yeah,
for somebody with a wheelchair to access it. I know.
yeah, that
Go
has
ahead.
two really good capabilities because when that rotates back, right, that helps you pull the frames out. It also will allow your wheelchair to get in a little closer to that hive, and that's going to be a pretty good advantage for you.
What do you got in the works there? I hadn't really thought about that, but having one that tilts would be pretty handy.
Yeah, we're working on have little size like cogs that he can kind of roll that uh, hive with a crank and cause it to tilt back for him. We still probably should be able to find that hive fairly easy, but man, he's gonna be able to pull those frames out almost eye level. They're gonna come about right out to him, and I mean, I might get me a wheelchair just to sit in so I don't have to be standing up. I mean, it gets kind of rough standing there all day long. So
You mentioned you can adjust the height of it. Do you think there's a point that you can go too high maybe and get top heavy, or do you think it'd be pretty sturdy if you go to going taller with it?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make it too tall. My hives usually the front entrance is about 20 inches, so that's skunks can't real. They can kind of get their paws up there, but they can't get your bees, and mice can't jump, but 18 inches, I believe, is 18. Yeah, 18 inches. I think is what I researched now. I did talk to Frederick Dunn, and he has some kind of wild mouse up there in Pennsylvania that can jump higher than that. So
Is that the shrew that they mentioned?
that's the shrewd, yeah. So,
Oh boy.
but yeah, we can make some adjustments on that hive to help Justin out, and then I have to worry about how the lid. I don't want that lid coming down and hitting his hands while he's in there. I don't want it falling out. So that's a little bit more of a design, thing that I'll have to look at and make sure that he doesn't get hurt. But just listen to the lady yesterday. What was her name that she couldn't see?
Ariel Gilbert.
Yeah. Listen to her talk about her bees and how she feels in there. And I'm thinking, man, I wish I could make something to help her. But she had figured out everything already. And I was so excited listening to her. And I told Justin I got some questions and I got some wrote down for him if she doesn't mind asking. I'd like to have her, answer some of those because she got me all intrigued thinking about, well, what if somebody blind is there something with my hive that I can do to help her out, So it'll be a lot of fun interacting with other people on these hives.
Depending on her brood management, I can't remember if she's doing single brood or what she's doing, but
Yeah,
that long hive would definitely be an asset to her. I think just to be able to sit
right,
in front of her hive and I have to move a bunch of boxes.
exactly. And the funny thing about the horizontal hive, usually the brood's right in front of that entrance.
Mm-hmm.
So you pretty much know where your queen's going to be at because it's only about a 10-inch opening versus the Langston 5, which is about 19 inches across. So you know where that brood's going to be at. So, hey, if I want to check out and make sure the brood's okay, she could fill in that area. Or, hey, I want to see if there's honey over here next to the end. How far does that go? So um, it'd be really interesting talking to her.
I seen you have one that had several different sections where you can make queens in it.
Yeah, that's
Which
something new that I'm trying out. And that's more of a commercial thing for these big beekeepers that have hives, or they do their queen rearing, and they have boxes everywhere. And I said, well, what if we put 12 queen rearing sections, 2-inch two frames per section, and that way they can raise their queens. And let's say a queen doesn't come back, well, you can just pull the divider out, and now you've got a 5-frame nuke, that you're not losing anything. Or, you let that one of the queens come back and you pull it, and now she's got 5 frames she can work on, and then you sell a nuke. So
mm-hmm.
um, it. I want one for myself. I haven't even got to make one for myself, but I really would like to play with it and see what it can do. Had a gentleman from Texas who took my standard hive, and he put 2 holes in the side, and he's going to do 2 nukes and then the rest for a regular hive. So um, that would help your nuke over winter and stay a whole lot warmer.
I sure thought that looked intriguing there, and probably one that I'll eventually try and buy from you there.
Well,
I don't know if you're familiar with the Michael Palmer hives that has the 4/4. I've been
I
looking
am
at
not.
some. Uh, it's basically a 10 frame footprint, and you got a divider in it. And you got frames on the side and 4 on the side. Then you can just build up, and they're
Okay,
supposed to over winter pretty well too.
I'll have to check out that.
Yeah. Do you know what your average success rate is on returning queens on something like that? Since there's so many entrances right there together.
Well, that's a good question you asked, Jonathan, because I have, like I said, I haven't got to use that.
Mm-hmm.
I give Cayman a hive at the Hive Life conference because he's a commercial beekeeper, and I told him, I said, don't make no videos on it. I said, just put some queens in it and tell me what the success rate is coming back. And if you can get 75% of your queens to come back, that's pretty good success. So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping he's going to tell me that. But It may be closer to 50. I don't know, but I'll be honest with the customer if they order one off of me. I don't know. To be honest with you, I had a gentleman in Virginia. He wanted a 3-frame queen rearing hive instead of 2, and he said he'd done something not quite on as big as I did mine, but he said he wanted one. So I figured that means maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
So, do you use treatment in your hives?
Yeah, I just got done treating my hives with oxalic acid. Um, I usually, if they need it in the fall, I'll treat with oxalic acid, and then I'll use the apamine strips during July during our dearth up here in the mountains. Which I don't know. I may not do it this year. I may try to catch the sourwood flow. Um, we had a fairly good sourwood flow this year, but I'm not a professional beekeeper, and some of this stuff, like trying to catch certain flavor types, is a little newer to me.
And do you just use a regular vaporizer?
Yeah, I use the Laurel's Bee vaporizer,
The Lord bees?
and yeah, sure do. And it works very, very good. And you just put the hole in the back, even with the horizontal hive. Finding where that brood chamber's at, which is usually right there in front of the entrance. Put you a hole in and just do a treatment. And I would suggest you put your dividers on either side of that to make that. You want as much treatment on those bees as you can get. So put your 2 dividers on each side and then treat them that way. That way you're not losing some on the size of that box. That box, like I said, it can hold 32 frames.
Okay. This is a lot of information. I can't wait to be able to try your hive. I actually have, what is your favorite design to build?
Oh, let's see. I would say my favorite design is that super horizontal hive right there in the middle.
This one
It
in the middle?
Yeah, it just gives you a whole lot more options. If I want to put sugar or pollen patty, you got the center position to do that with, and then you're not disrupting anything on the right or left side of that hive.
You mentioned earlier somebody is wanting to use hog halves for their configuration. I guess that one in the middle there, that would be pretty appropriate for that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I put hogs half on that hive this year, and they drawed the cone out, and I got some nectar in it, but they never did get a chance to cap it. That hive swarmed on me 3 times, and the last time it swarmed on me, had 5 queens in that swarm. It was a monster swarm,
Oh,
so
wow.
it never did build back up to have any honey in those hogs halves.
So you just use regular latches to keep these locked?
Yeah, they use toggle latches to lock those down.
Okay, and then that makes sense about when you were talking about the lid, because you just use regular hinges, right?
The hinges on the back of that's actually something that's made for airplane cases, and it's a little bit of a. I don't really tell people where I get them from because it's a little bit to my design. But that when that flips open, it'll hold itself up. You don't have to have a cable or anything to hold that hive up. Those latches will keep it open.
Oh, nice. And but if it's tilted, it won't hold it in place.
No, I'll have to fix something for your hive to make sure it does not come down on you. So probably I don't know. When we're gonna make sure you don't get hurt. I don't want your mama whipping my butt for getting her baby hurt.
I mean, it could be something as simple as what they use in the car to hold
Yeah,
the lid up,
yeah,
or something as in depth as hydraulic
hydraulic
things on the
cylinders.
edge.
Yep. I thought about
I'm
hydraulic
interested.
cylinders.
I'm interested to see what you come up with. It's going to be a beautiful part of our experimental hive or experimental apiary here in Virginia.
Right. And you'll get to say, Rick, what'd you do that for? Let's change something and we can do that also. You know, you might say, hey, can I do this? Or hey, if you do this for somebody else, my buddy Jonathan down here, can you put this on it for him? And that'll work better. So we'll push that hive to the next level.
My mom said it's all good. I'm a big boy. Well, it's been about 30 minutes, and I don't want to keep too much of your time, but is there anything else that you'd like to share about your hives before I ask Jonathan if he has any more questions?
You know, I don't think so, Jonathan. I mean, you know, I just want to see people use horizontal hives a little bit more. But I will say, your loved ones that's with you, give them an extra hug. Tell them you love them because you never know when they might not be here.
Yeah, I know you had a rough experience, and we're glad everyone's okay.
Yep.
You have anything else, Jonathan, before we head out?
I don't believe so. I sure appreciate you being on for us here and talking about your hives, and look forward to possibly using one in the near future here.
All right.
Brian from Castle Hive says he'll be using his again.
Yeah, but I think Brian, I know he said he lost both his horizontal hives, and you know, again, you know that does happen with any equipment. I think he lost a few of his other hives also, but I think he's a little bit more worried about losing his mom's horizontal hive and losing the bees in that one. So hopefully he can get them back up and going again this year. And you know, if you guys don't know Brian from Castle Hives, that's a very good gentleman right there. And you know, when I first got on YouTube, you know, he was right there and kind of just helping me out, and he kept me, you know, made me part of his group, and he's a very good gentleman. If anybody on here, you know, go check Brian's channel out.
Well, before we leave, you know, talking about Castle Hives actually reminded me that you sent him bee
Some,
porches.
yeah, I sent him a couple of bee porches for his hive to see if that'd help him out some.
And what are those beneficial for?
Well, I think Brian's, and he said he had 3 openings on his hive, and I think he said he'd like to cut the ventilation down to one central hole. I think that'll help some. If you think of a beehive, a swarm of bees, you know, when they go into a tree, that hole's probably not no bigger than anywhere from an inch to 3 inches, and that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And they cool that hive down themselves, so they don't have a real big opening. So I think that was something Brian thought he might try, and I sent him some bee porches so that you know that would help that one entrance out, give them a little bit more shade and just a little bit better landing spot.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else, and I appreciate you coming on. Do you last second? Do you have anything, Jonathan?
Go join Castle Hive this evening in 30 minutes.
That's right.
Yes, for their stream, uh, they'll be having Humberto.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Justin with Jonathan and Ricky from Horizontal Bees. Thank you, everyone, for coming and chatting, and we hope to see more horizontal hives in your future.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. God bless.
God bless.